Hello, and welcome to another episode of Nature with You, where we talk about your favorite nature stories, memories, and interests. I am your host, Abby. Today, I will be talking with one of my family friends, Mike. Mike lives in Western Pennsylvania and has worked in the conservation field for over 25 years. He enjoys playing the guitar, snorkeling, cycling, hiking, and spending time with his family. Enjoy the episode. Where do you feel most connected to nature?
Right now, it would actually be snorkeling. I was
Snorkeling,
thinking about your
okay.
question, and that's something that I didn't really discover until recently. 2018, we went to St. Croix, the U.S. Virgin
Mhm.
Islands, and I really hadn't snorkeled before. Spent plenty of time in the water, but having that experience of going under with a mask on and seeing fish
Yeah,
was pretty new. So then we went to Hawaii, as
yeah,
you know, a couple times, and continuing to do it there, it's just a whole other world. And seeing fish and sea turtles right there in the water is really cool. So before that, I probably just would have said, back in the woods somewhere, which is still true.
yeah,
But now, if I had to pick one, that would definitely be it for sure. And I
yeah.
want to I want to do more of that.
Oh, I agree. I also agree that it's one of my favorite things to do. And I personally, whenever I first went snorkeling, I was really scared. Like I don't know if you had those
Oh, really?
feelings or just
Scared of
yeah.
what?
I think just feeling like I couldn't breathe and like I would get in my own head about it.
Uh-huh.
But since I've done it so many times at this point, I have like a routine where I just start out like listening to my breathing and then I slowly forget about it once I start seeing everything. But yeah, it definitely my relationship with snorkeling definitely changed since like the first few times I went.
Yeah, well, the other piece of that is I want to get scuba certified. And we did that also in St. Croix, the four of us, it was just like we didn't go through the certification process, but they actually
Mhm.
would, with a guide, take you out with the equipment. And
Oh,
I was
okay.
kind of surprised they did that, but they
Yeah.
do. And we signed a waiver, so
And
made us
nothing went
go.
wrong?
No, but we went
Okay.
down 40 feet. We went out in a boat and we were out on a
Mhm.
reef somewhere. It wasn't that far out. You could still see the island, but yeah, we went down deep, pretty deep. I was surprised, and yeah, there's you can definitely get in your head.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't just pop up. At least with
Right.
snorkeling, you're kind of
Different.
right there. But so it was exhilarating, but a little scary
Mhm.
not being used to it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think when you can't breathe,
Yeah.
that's that is a little unsettling. But yeah, I think it's worth it with snorkeling. But I know what you mean. But but
So
yeah,
would
I
you
definitely
like
want to do more of that.
snorkeling or scuba diving, or do you think?
Snorkeling's so accessible, and you just
Yeah.
can just walk off the beach and do it. Especially in Hawaii. But I definitely want that experience of going and going deeper,
Deeper, yeah.
being under longer. So that's definitely something I want to do in the future.
What would you say to try to convince someone to go snorkeling if they maybe have reservations or just haven't thought about doing it before?
I think it's finding the right place to do it. We went to this beach called Lanikai. I don't know if you guys went there when you were out there. It was on
I don't
Oahu.
know.
It's there's a town called Kailua, which is kind of between Honolulu and the North Shore, and you can just walk right off the beach. The water's calm, and there's just acres and acres of reef, and it's very accessible. No big
Yeah.
waves, no sharks that I know of.
Yeah.
It's even if there were, I mean, I don't know, it's kind of tight, but it's very accessible. If you want to get out and go way offshore, people do that, but you really don't have to. So I
Mhm.
think compared to like Electric Beach, which you probably remember,
Oh, I
uh,
do.
which I know
That
we
was
all do,
rough.
our experience there. But I'm glad I did that, but
Yeah.
that was definitely not beginner friendly. So to start at a place like that, not a good idea. But this particular beach really it was very very friendly to kind of getting the hang of snorkeling. Lots of fish, sea turtles. It's you can just go in and out all day long. Water's warm. It's very very friendly. So I think it's finding the right place.
Yeah,
We went to a place in St.
definitely.
Croix. And, we were just reading about these beaches and picking them out just based on reviews. And the one place we
Yeah.
went, I remember, had sea urchins.
Oh
So
my
if you
gosh.
happen to put your foot down, you could step on a sea urchin. Again, not a
Yep.
good place to start. There was a little bit of a current, so
Mm,
so you're watching for the current, you're watching for the sea urchins. There weren't that many
mhm.
fish, so again, it was not. I'm glad we did it to try it, but it
Yeah.
was not the right place to recommend for someone who's just starting. Even I mean, I was just starting myself then, and the boys are out there, and I was worried about them
Yeah.
carry out to sea in the current. So nobody did, of course, but it was not super scary, but scary enough that it would not be a place I'd recommend for somebody just starting. And I probably wouldn't go
Yeah.
back unless I was a much stronger swimmer than I was at the
That's
time.
another thing, like, when you're snorkeling, like, you really have to be aware of your surroundings, and I think a few times I've, like, gotten so caught up in what I'm looking at, and then I get up like, look up, and all of a sudden I'm super far away from
Yeah,
where I
no,
started.
absolutely. You kind of lose
Yeah.
track, and I think that's why, get back to your original question of, feeling connected with nature is when I think if I'm hiking, I can be thinking about work or stuff that needs to be done at the
Mhm.
house but when you're snorkeling, you're dialed into what you're doing. Like
Yeah.
you're so focused on the thing in front of you, and you really have to be, not just to enjoy it, but just to, navigate and it's
Right.
just it's literally and figuratively immersive. You're really
Mhm.
it's hard to have an experience where you're just focused on that thing. I think playing music is maybe close because if you're
Mhm.
playing an instrument, you can get really focused on the
Yeah.
thing that you're doing. But yeah, snorkeling, well, especially I think scuba,
Yeah.
with my
'Cause
very,
you're
very limited
really
experience, you
down
really
in a
have to
new
pay attention
world.
to what you're doing. I mean, for your own
Mhm.
safety, so you're just completely focused. Yeah, I remember in Hawaii when first saw a sea turtle. Well, I saw one on Electric Beach, but I didn't see it for very long. But at Lanakai, you could be right over 3 feet below you, and
Yeah.
just totally losing track of where I was. Unfortunately, it's not a strong current. Not It's really not. It's not a dangerous place really in any way, but kind of popping my head up and not really even knowing where I
Yeah.
was because you just get so dialed into the turtle that you just lose track of everything else. But that's a cool
Absolutely.
experience, to have that hyper
Yeah.
focus on the thing in front of you.
Yeah, definitely. What is your favorite memory of being outside?
That's a hard one because I have a lot. I probably would say that just
Yeah.
the week we spent at Lanakai last year, and we had a
Mm.
place in that little town, and we could walk to the beach and snorkel every day. That would
Mhm.
definitely be one of them. But I guess another one of many would be when I was between my junior and senior year of college, and I got a job in Grand Teton National Park for the summer. And it wasn't really just one experience necessarily, but it was spending the whole summer in a national park in
Yeah.
the Northern Rockies was was new to me. I'd been to Colorado one time for a couple days to ski in college,
Mhm.
but to spend a whole summer immersed in that landscape and every day off I had, we'd go out and we'd pick some different place to go, Montana, Idaho, Washington, or Oregon. Yeah, Oregon and Washington. We took a big road trip out there and Idaho and just being I guess another immersion thing, living in the park
Yeah.
and having access to all those places and just the incredible landscapes and the weather is phenomenal. It's warm and
Yeah.
dry and sunny and so that whole summer was a real eye opener for me because I'd never been in that kind of landscape for more than just, a short amount of time. So spending a whole summer there was really cool.
What
That's
sort of
what that
things did
block
you
of time was
do?
kind of a favorite time.
Yeah. What sort of things did you have to do for your job?
I worked at a marina. The lodge was on Jackson Lake, which is a huge. There's a dam there. I don't think it's a natural lake. Maybe it was, but if it was much smaller than what it is now. There's a big dam. It's a giant lake. So the lodge I worked at was on the water, and we had a boat rental,
Mhm.
boats to rent to tourists, and then people that lived in the area had boats out on buoys in the water, so we would take them out. So I was outside every day
Nice.
showing people how to run boats and putting gas
Yeah.
in boats. And so I was outside all day long, which is why I took the job. That's why I picked that
Right.
one. So it was pretty easy. It
Yeah.
was very fun. It was all, people and college age people, early 20s for the most part. So it was really fun. It was definitely kind of a party. That's where I met Diana. Yeah, we met out there. She was working there
W-
too. She'll
Both
she'll probably talk
from,
about that.
were you both from Pennsylvania?
No, she's from
Or,
Northwest Ohio.
oh, okay, but
So we met
that's
out there.
funny
I
that you
didn't know.
still
I
met
didn't.
out there.
We met out
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Ah, that's funny.
So that was that. Those experiences that summer were really fun. And, having
Yeah.
fun with a group of people. There were a group of us,
Yeah.
including Diana, that would had the same day off. So we would, as soon as we were off, we'd get in the car and go do something,
Do you think
camp, and
before that you already had like a pretty good relationship with nature? Like it was already a big part of your life, or did that
yeah, I'd say so. I
experience?
mean, that was part of the well, it was probably that was probably the main motivation for working in a national park. I applied to
Hmm.
a couple different parks. This was all pre-internet. So
Uh-huh.
a friend of mine had a booklet with different
Okay.
places you could contact for jobs in the parks, and I sent a couple out, and this was the one that was outside. I really didn't
Hmm.
know anything about Grand Teton National Park. I don't know if I'd ever heard of it. And so I picked that one, and I took the bus. I took the Greyhound bus from Pittsburgh to Jackson. Took 4 days, and it was a real adventure. And but yeah, prior to that, I was starting to spend more and more time outside. I'd gotten a mountain bike.
Hmm.
That was the early days of mountain biking.
Oh.
I'd gone on a couple trips on the Clarion River. One of my friend's parents would do. We'd get inner tubes and float down the Clarion River,
Oh,
and
nice.
these weren't really trips, they were like day floats. And then another friend of mine his parents had a property in Yellow Creek State Park, and he had a canoe. So we would go out in the canoe, and we camped a couple times out there. So yeah, I was starting to. My parents, they were outdoor oriented people. They weren't sit in the house kind of people.
Yeah.
So I was kind of getting into some of that stuff. But yeah, so by the time I went to the Tetons, I was definitely interested in spending more time kind of in nature, getting
Yeah.
back in. So yeah,
That's cool. I'm curious, how did you get into mountain biking? And do you have any cool or crazy stories involved with that?
I in high school got into road biking. I mean, this
Mhm.
is the early 80s. Mountain bikes were just sort of becoming a thing back
Mhm.
then. I think it wasn't until kind of the late 70s, I don't think, that till mountain bikes were sort of even invented out in, I think, California and in Colorado. And they were, so I was riding bikes already. I'd done a
Yeah.
couple of races. I wasn't super competitive. I did a couple road races, and a friend of mine got a mountain bike. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
So I got one, and Indiana has a place called White's Woods, which is owned by, I think, the township, actually, White Township, and it's a couple hundred acres, and it's right there. It's right next to town, and you can ride your mountain bike up there. So
Mhm.
that's how I got started, was riding in White's Woods, and then it kind of went from there. I really got into it for a while, and I took my bike out to Wyoming, when I was out there for the
Nice.
summer.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I have any crazy stories. I've wrecked a number of times.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you wipe out any
The one and
time?
only race I ever tried was in college. I mean, this was 1986, 87. So bikes have come a long way since then, but I remember it was near State College. There's a big mass of people, and we all kind of did this start together, and I hit another person's bike, or they hit me, I don't remember, and I went down sideways, and I had road rash, it's called.
Yeah.
Scraped
Yeah.
the whole way up the side, and I was fine, but it was my one and only mountain bike race. I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't
That was
seriously
enough
hurt.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it
It
was
was more
just
of
it
a,
wasn't really I don't really ride to be competitive.
mhm,
That's not what it was about. It was more being out in nature and having fun.
right.
So the competitive aspect of that I never really latched onto that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of a shifting gears question, but I know that with Andrew and Hayden, it seems like you prioritize, outdoor activities and spending time outside on trips and stuff just because I know you guys. So why was that important
to both of you to do that with your children?
I think all parents want to share the things they love and care about with their kids. So it was just kind of, and that's kind of what we love and care about. So that's what we had to offer. So I think that's one thing a parent should do is share the thing that they love and care about with their kids. And maybe your kids develop different interests or than what you have or go in a different direction, and that's totally fine. But I think I think it's good to show your kids the things you care about and why you care about
Yeah,
them, and give them the opportunity to share that with you, and then
right.
they can certainly develop their own interests. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's just what we do.
Yeah, it
And
certainly
really,
seems like
I think we we did plenty of stuff, but sometimes I think
mhm,
I wish I would have done more. Even
mhm.
but yeah, we skied and did stuff outdoors, so we definitely got outside. So
And it definitely seems like they found like their interests outside too, like with sailing for Hayden. I know he did that and was pretty good at it, right?
yeah,
So
well,
it
yeah, I
must
mean,
have been cool to watch them develop their own interests outdoors.
yeah, no, it's really exciting, and Andrew loves to golf, and neither one of us, golf. We certainly
Yeah.
have golf, but neither one of us are golfers. So no, it's really cool to see your kids develop things on their own. And yeah, Hayden's sailing was totally an unexpected thing since
Yeah.
he didn't do it. We didn't sail. We spent some time canoeing and kayaking a little bit here and there, but nothing
Mhm.
like that. But yeah, I think that was cool. Cool to see him jump into that, a totally new thing, and excel at it, and have
Yeah.
a great experience with you. But yeah, getting out in the ocean like that, I think would be we talk about immersive. Being out in the
Yeah,
ocean, miles from shore. So I know he had some really intense experiences
I'm sure.
with the weather and being out.
Yeah.
Way out in the ocean, open ocean. This is a cool experience for him.
Yeah. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Mind-boggling a little bit. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, I would love to do that too someday.
So, what scares you about nature?
Well, when I read that question, the first thing that popped into my mind wasn't so much like my physical safety, although as we talked about, you can have some experiences like an electric beach where you might feel, wow,
Yeah.
this ocean's kind of gnarly and dangerous, so that's a little scary. But I think that there's more to me. What's scary is the future of nature and how we're going to be able to balance what we do with nature. The
Mhm.
things we do have impacts, with air quality, with water quality, with land conversion, consumption. We need jobs, we need things to do, but hopefully we can balance that to some extent with preserving nature and preserving air quality and water quality and making sure
Yeah.
nothing else goes extinct.
Yeah.
Extinction to me is kind of scary because it's still a possibility with various
Right.
animals and insects and reptiles. I mean, these things are not, they're always imperiled to some degree,
Yeah.
so, things kind of fluctuate politically with interest in conservation and concern about conservation. We seem to be in kind of a low point with
Yeah.
political interest in conservation. It's still there, I think, but it's getting drowned out by other issues. Whereas I think at other points in history, conservation has had a much more prominent place in the kind of national discussion. You think about
Yeah.
the 60s and 70s when Endangered Species Act was put in place, and a lot of land conservation took place. Parks getting expanding.
Mhm.
So pendulum swung a little bit, but there's still a real strong. A lot of people are interested in protecting nature,
Yeah.
so it's not going away. But I think that balance of kind of economic activity with nature is always going to be a challenge. And what scares me is if the balance swings, or the balance tips too much toward things that are damaging to nature. But we all, like I said, we all need jobs, we all need things to do, we all use energy, we all drive cars, we all need roads. So it's balance,
Right.
just balancing that and making sure we're protecting the natural world with that.
Yeah. It's definitely scary to see all the deregulation that's happening, and I
Yeah,
don't really know if I think maybe not to the scale it's happened a lot recently, but this is also kind of like the first time I'm noticing things like this happening just
yeah,
because now I'm
yeah,
paying more attention to politics and specifically related to the environment. So I think it just a lot of older people that I speak to about this, whether they're professors or just friends, are like it always gets better. Like you're saying, like a pendulum is swinging, but it does feel very eerie right now too.
yeah. I think it there's is always sort of the push and pull between regulation, deregulation. How much does the government get involved with limiting
Yeah.
activities, economic activities, or other regulations, keeping people from, economic growth, all that stuff is always an issue. But yeah, I think now there does seem to be more kind of aggressive
Mm.
deregulation compared to other times that I can think of too. So yeah, I think it just does seem to be a little more kind of aggressive deregulation push currently. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think it's the perfect balance will never be struck. I think it's
Yeah.
always there's always going to be the dialogue of, how much do you regulate? And there's no easy answer. So yeah, who knows? In a few years, it might go the other way, and then
Right.
things. And I'm not. I think it is possible to overregulate. So
Mhm.
but we have to be always working toward finding that balance of
Right.
economic growth, economic development, with making sure we're not seeing species go extinct and our air
Yeah.
quality isn't bad, and
Yeah.
water is clean. So it's a difficult balance to strike.
Yeah, and specifically with air and water quality, that's definitely something I've taken for granted my whole life so far, just because I haven't had to think about it. And I don't know, without regulations that were in place, I don't know how quickly things could get unhealthy. So,
Yeah, I
yeah, it's
think
just,
that's I've
it's kind
I've
of like
thought the same
waiting.
thing. Yeah, I mean, we've sort of, you think about, especially in Western PA, Pittsburgh back in the day when the air quality was
Yeah.
horrible. People couldn't even see in the daytime. They had to turn their lights
Mm-hmm.
on in the middle of the day. You know, we don't know that. We've never experienced
Right.
that. We've only experienced a fairly clean environment.
Mm-hmm.
Not perfect, but or you think of China, you
Yeah.
see images of Beijing with people walking around with masks on long before COVID because of the air quality. Fortunately, we haven't
Right.
experienced that. I'd like to think we're not going to get to that point, but yeah, when you
Mm-hmm.
start taking away regulations, we just don't know what that impact's going to be.
Right,
Um,
yeah, because the way, like, the cycle works, like, it takes a while to develop new policy or push even existing policy, so I don't know if, like, but by the time it gets fixed or, like you're saying, we find a new balance regarding a specific issue, like clean air and water, yeah, I don't know if it'll be in time or not, so
yeah,
I think I personally, just to feel better, wanna do, like, more research on those types of things, like the timeline of everything, just because I like knowing the information, but I know a lot of people like not knowing the information. So
yeah.
we just like respond with how we need to as well.
Well, I think we're at a point where we're changing how we think about energy, and
Mhm.
we're in our country, we have, mixed feelings about renewables, we have mixed feelings about nuclear, coal. I mean, all of it, especially now, we're really in flux. We're using even more and more energy with data centers and air conditioning, and so we need to figure out how to either make more or use less or both. So
Yeah.
we're really in a transition time of what we want our energy to look like. So that's and the rest of the world is doing the same thing. So I think how we make energy is going to continue to be a big topic. And all
Yeah.
energy has some kind of impact. Even a solar panel has to be manufactured. You need
Mhm.
resources. You have to mine minerals to make solar panels. Wind energy, is those things have to be fabricated. So all of it has some consumptive impact. But again, it's that back to that balance. We have to figure out a way to meet our needs with energy sources that have as little impact as possible.
Yeah. And maybe reevaluate like what do we truly need. But I know that's kind of a bigger societal and cultural question that a lot of people don't want to change their lifestyles because, you've said before, like, there's a lot of other social issues to deal with or just daily life things that we all have to deal with. So I think approaching those conversations with more like empathy and patience versus like you're going to have to make all these changes could also go a long way as we hopefully transition to more accessible, renewable energy in all homes. But yeah, that's something I think about a lot, just talking to people about it and saying maybe it'll be a little inconvenient at first, but then it should be more convenient and more and cheaper even, hopefully, in the
Yeah.
long run.
Yeah, and electric vehicles, those had a little bit of a were kind of rising in prominence for a while, and it's sort of going
Mhm.
the other way with those. And those aren't perfect technology either. We have a ways to go with that.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
so there's kind of no perfect solution. But I don't think it has to be all renewables or all fossil fuels. Is there a
Mhm.
reasonable combination where needs are met through a mix of renewables with fossil fuels or even nuclear? So I don't know if it's going to be just one sort of silver bullet that fixes everything. I don't think we're really having a conversation about conservation. Using less, trying to have efficient
Mhm.
homes where we're trying to use as little energy as possible. That's
Yeah.
not easy either. We live in an older house. We have drafty windows. We can improve our
Yeah.
own efficiency, but it takes money. So I think using less energy needs to be part of the discussion, although
Yeah.
it kind of isn't at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to figure out how to meet the growing demand of
Yeah.
AI in particular. And like I said, we all have air conditioning now. When I was growing up, you had a fan in the window, which not, but now my parents have air conditioning, like everybody, and so do we.
Yeah.
So it's just that's a big shift. Things are getting warmer,
Yeah. We're gonna use
so
more air conditioning. Yep.
yeah, so
It's a
which
whole
means
cycle right now. Yeah.
yeah, yep.
I was curious. I was with a friend from Greensburg yesterday, and her mom was talking about a potential data center that they're building in Westmoreland County, maybe. Maybe it was Allegheny County, I'm not sure. But she was saying that someone is like contacting members of their community trying to get them to help pay for the data center to go in, which I wasn't sure that I don't know what's right. I'm just sharing the context she shared. I don't know if you heard anything about that because I was just curious how that would
Did
work.
I don't know about that specifically, but I do know of two that are proposed. One is actually near where I grew up in Homer City, and coincidentally, my dad worked in a coal mine, and his
Mhm.
coal went to the coal burning power plant that used to be there, the Homer City power plant that was in Homer City,
Mhm.
big coal burning plant. They demolished that, and that's going to be a data center with a gas fired power plant to
Okay.
to power the data center. And the reason they picked that location is partly it was already an industrial site. It's already
Yeah.
cleared, but they have Indiana County has a lot of natural gas, although I think they're going to be bringing it from elsewhere, but already has gas. And there's a creek, Yellow Creek, that they can pull water to help cool it. So I do know about
Gotcha.
that one. And then there's another one in Springdale, PA, which is just north of Pittsburgh, which isn't far from where I work. So I know that one is also, and there are a number that are proposed. Yeah, I don't know about. I'm not sure what. I know there can be community backlash in some cases. I don't know there's any local issues with the Homer City one. I know there's been some issues raised by organizations about
Mhm.
the impacts of the gas-fired power plant that's going to be associated with it.
Yeah,
But
and I know some just from things I've seen on the internet, some people show that they live within X miles radius of the data center and they like turn on their faucet and it's just like water's barely dripping out and it can really impact your water flow but also quality. So maybe if more people knew that is a possibility there would be more backlash, but how common that is, that was just one instance, you
yeah, I
know.
think it really. I don't know that and I'm no expert on data centers, but from
Yeah.
what I'm reading, where they get the water can really vary. I know in the case of Homer City, I'm pretty sure that that water is just going to be drawn out of the creek, which has its own
Mhm.
challenges. But the Homer City power plant did that for years. Most power plants
Mhm.
to draw water from somewhere because they need to they need the water to generate steam to
Yeah.
turn the turbines to make the electricity back when it was coal, and now they're using the water to
Mhm.
cool the equipment apparently. So there's already a dam on Yellow Creek. Well, it's tributary to Yellow Creek. It's called Tula. There's already a reservoir there that was built for the coal burning power plant. So the
Mhm.
infrastructure is there for water. But yeah, I think others actually do draw from wells. But I think we're in the period of, as these things are built, we're learning the impacts as we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, versus maybe asking these questions before they're built, but
Well, I think people seem a little more asking questions up front than
mm.
I think people are asking the question. I think to some extent people are seeing that, okay, maybe we should be really taking a close look at these things,
Yeah.
because they're going to use a lot of electricity, a lot of water potentially. They're
Yeah.
big. I think they can be noisy. So I think overall, at least in Pennsylvania, we're approaching them with some degree of caution.
Mhm.
But they're jobs, there's construction jobs, there's tax revenue, there are all the economic benefits of something like that too.
Mhm.
So it's back to that balance thing of
Mhm.
how do we all of us use data,
Yeah.
so how do we figure out a way to balance all that? It's the
Yeah.
ongoing tension.
What do you know about climate change?
I think there's no question that the weather is changing in my lifetime. I think you see more extreme weather events, heavier rains, more extreme cold, really hot, really dry. I mean, it just seems like things are more extreme one way or the other. I mean, there are
Yeah.
always weather events, have been since I've been around, but it just
Yeah.
seems like the weather is just more unpredictable and more extreme.
Yeah.
And, I think it's pretty much settled by science that climate change is real. Anecdotally, I think we all agree the weather is getting more extreme and, whatever is causing that.
A lot of people I think are noticing what you're saying weather, specifically heat is one response I get a lot, but I like that you're connecting all the extreme weather events too, because that really is something that I think a lot of people just notice, but then maybe move on from. But yeah, I think it also helps that you maybe saw it before that was all happening. So you're like comparing, oh, this isn't how it was when I was growing up, or it's gotten increasingly they've gotten increasingly more frequent and such. So yeah, just as always asking more questions, I think we could always benefit from.
I think, there still seems to be a debate of whether burning fossil fuels leads to climate change.
Mhm.
And to me, even if you put that aside, we still want to have back to the clean air. We want to have a clean environment to as much as we can. So to me, you're trying to incorporate more renewables just makes sense just from a clean environment standpoint. Whether you put aside the climate issue, which I don't think we should, but even if you take that out of the equation, renewables are just overall cleaner. We just there's less impact. There is an impact of making solar panels, like I said, but it's less than
Yeah.
just relying entirely on fossil fuels. So
Yeah.
by incorporating more renewables, I think leads to better air quality, which leads to most likely, less impact on the climate. So
Right.
again, I'm not saying
And
we
I
should
think
pull a plug on all fossil fuels, but I think we need to figure out that balance.
yeah, and I think it goes back to like the broader, like, why should we even just care about nature and just, or even just the planet or our livelihood? Like you're saying, all issues and hot terminology aside, we should just be doing these things because it seems like they're the smarter choice in the long run and just, yeah, result in healthier, safer, greener, more vibrant communities.
Yeah, I mean, I think going snorkeling in Hawaii burns fossil fuels, right? I got in a jet, I
Mhm.
flew out to Hawaii, I drove a car. I mean, so,
Yeah.
doing those things to connect with nature, and I understand there's an impact of doing that, and
Yeah.
we all do it. But I think if we try to be thoughtful and minimize our impact, we're just healthier overall.
Yeah.
The air is cleaner, water's cleaner, food is better. So I think it really
Yeah.
comes it's a human health issue, not even just like a spiritual, getting out in nature
Yeah.
and enjoying it. There's definitely direct human health impacts.
These are
If the
things we just
water,
should want. Yeah.
yeah, and really economically, if water is unclean, is impacted, we have to spend money and energy to clean it before we can use it. So we're better
Mhm.
off trying to keep it. There's a very practical reason to minimizing our impact. So, I mean, recreation aside, spiritual connection aside, which are all important, there's a real practical economic and
Right.
health benefit, I think, to being conservative with how we use resources and thinking about the impacts of those resources,
Yeah.
how we use
I
those
agree.
resources.
Well, do you have any last words that you wanna say?
I guess overall, I'm hopeful. I think there are a lot of people across the world who are thinking about these same things, and I think there is a real strong movement toward land conservation and protecting species. So even though there are some things that are not hopeful that are happening with
Yeah.
deregulation, I think overall there is a strong interest in the things that we're talking about, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to make things better. I mean, they're pretty good now, I guess, overall, but I
Make
think
sure
there's a
they
ways to
don't
go.
get worse. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Nature with You. If you're interested in more episodes, search Nature with You on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Also, feel free to follow me on Instagram or Facebook. Thank you.